Hi beauties, Rosie here from rosypena.com, a fashion, sewing, and lifestyle blog. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be doing an episode of Sewing with Rosie. So it's been a really long time since I filmed one of these videos. You guys didn't already know I've been so busy with going to nursing school and trying to further my education in that field. But I do still love sewing, of course, and I'm always seeing what you guys make online. And recently I did have some time to make Mccall'S 8025. I filmed the sewing process for you guys. As you know, with all of my Sewing with Rosie videos, I talk about what kind of fabric you'll need. I'll show you the pattern pieces and let you know each of the steps through the sewing process. So this pattern is really great for beginners. So if you've never sewn anything before, you can definitely follow along with this video and kind of learn step by step how to make this pattern. So it's a really beautiful, nice kind of winter top. You're gonna need a kind of medium weight structured knit for this pattern, but you can also use a lightweight knit as well. It's just gonna give it a little bit of a different look. But like I said, you can be a true beginner and work on this pattern with me. I show you each of the steps. And if you have any questions, make sure you just leave them for me in the comments below. If you guys haven't already, make sure you check out my other Sewing with Rosie episodes. I have, I think, about 15 or so now on my channel. So I'll link that playlist here for you guys so you can check out the other videos as well. I've sewn a bodysuit, I've sewn a bunch of dresses, so many different patterns. And if you guys ever have any requests for a pattern that you want to see me sew and that you want to sew along with me, of course, just let me know in the comments below, or you can tag me on Instagram at Rosy Pena, and I'll definitely check out the pattern and maybe feature it in a future Sewing with Rosie video. All right, so go ahead and grab your pattern and your fabric and we can go ahead and get started. All right, you guys, in today's video, we're going to be working on Mccall'S 8025. The fabric that you'll need for this pattern is a really nice structured knit. So I'm using a Ponte knit that I got from fabric.com, and I'll have it linked in the description bar below. You'll also, of course, need some sewing pins, some snippers, a seam ripper in case you make a mistake, also some pattern weights, a rotary cutter and a rotary cutting mat, or you can just use some fabric scissors. You'll also need some tracing paper and a tracing wheel or some kind of a fabric marking tool. This pattern is very particular on how you cut out the pattern. So if you have a really distinct right side and wrong side of your fabric, make sure you have the right side of your fabric facing up whenever you're cutting out your pattern piece. So the right side of your fabric is up and the right side of the pattern piece is up as well. This is going to ensure that you're actually cutting out the right pieces that you need. The very first pattern piece we need is pattern piece number 1, which is your right front. This is the side that is going to be gathered, so make sure you transfer all of those markings from your pattern to your fabric. The thing I also like to do is use a chalk roller and just mark the wrong side of my fabric with an X. This is just going to help me along the sewing process to make sure, of course, that I'm working on the right side or the wrong side. So this is the next pattern piece that you'll need, which is pattern piece number 2, your left front. So again, just like with all the pattern pieces, make sure you transfer all of those markings. All these markings are really important to help you in the sewing process. With the left and the right front, we were cutting one of each, and this pattern piece is the back, which is pattern piece number 3. You'll need one of this as well, but it's cut on the fold. So make sure you fold your fabric with right sides facing, and then place the edge of the pattern piece on the edge of your fabric fold, so that whenever you open your fabric, you have one full back piece. Next, you'll need pattern piece number 4, which is your sleeve, and of course, you'll need 2 of these. So fold your fabric with right sides together, and then you're just going to cut them both out at the same time. First step in the sewing process is to create a hem on all of our shirt, and then we're also going to create our gathers along the right front as well. So here I'm just showing you the areas that we're going to hem, which is along the neckline of the shirt pieces and also along the hem of the shirt pieces. Also, of course, going to create a hem on the neckline of the back pattern piece and also a hem on the bottom of the back pattern piece as well. I went ahead and serged the areas that we're going to hem. So the neckline of the back, the neckline of the 2 front pieces, and also the hem pieces as well. I went ahead and just neatened those edges with the serger, but this step is totally optional. You can also use a zigzag stitch to just encase those raw edges, but knit does not fray. So you can go ahead and just leave those edges raw if you prefer, or if you have a serger, just go ahead and serge those edges as well. Go ahead and sew along all of your hem edges with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You also want to make sure you're using a stretch stitch. So on your machine, you may have a stretch stitch. It kind of looks like a lightning bolt. Or if you don't have a stretch stitch on your machine, it's okay. You can use a zigzag stitch as well. This is going to give the same effect. So you just want to use a narrow zigzag stitch. Now we're going to create our gathering stitches, which are going to help us gather the side of the right front. So you just want to gather between the 2 dots on your fabric. So you should have made a marking at the top towards the neckline and a marking towards the bottom of the fabric as well. So you want to start there, and you just want to sew with basting stitch about 1/4 of an inch away from the raw edge. So go ahead and just sew along that entire edge, making sure you have your loose threads available on both the bottom and the top so that you can slightly tug on them later to create your gathers. So go ahead and just sew again with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance at first, making sure you're using a basting stitch. Once you finish with that, you're going to repeat that same step about 1/4 of an inch away from that piece. I also have more information on gathers on my blog at rosypena.com. I'll leave that linked in the description bar below. Once you've made both of your basting stitches and making sure to leave those loose ends on the beginning and the end of your sewing, we're going to go ahead and just grab those threads, either the top 2 threads or the bottom 2 threads, whichever you prefer, and you just want to slightly tug on those to gently create your gathers. Now that you've created the gathers on the front, we can go ahead and finish sewing the hem. So go ahead and just sew along that hemmed edge with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, again making sure to use a stretch stitch. Take your fabric to your ironing table and you just want to gently press those hemmed edges. In this video, I'm just using my regular iron and also a pressing ham. Like always, I have everything that I use in the video linked in the description bar below. So if you have any questions about any of the tools, go ahead and just check the description box below. That we've gently pressed all of our hemmed edges, we're going to go ahead and lay our front fabric pieces with the right sides facing up. You want to pin the right front over the left front, matching those symbols that you transferred from your pattern piece to your fabric. So you're going to just pin these in place at the side seams. So again, just like you see here in the video, make sure you have both of your front pattern pieces with the right sides facing up, and you're going to lap the right front over the left front, pinning at the side seams. Take your fabric to your sewing machine and you're going to sew with a basting stitch on both of your pinned side seams. Make sure you remove your sewing pins as you go. And again, you're just sewing with a basting stitch, which is the longest stitch on your sewing machine. It's a temporary stitch to temporarily hold your fabric in place. We can just slightly adjust our gathers on our front pattern piece, and then we're going to pin our front to our back with right sides facing. We're going to pin them at the shoulder seams and we're going to pin them at the side seams as well. Now we're going to work on our sleeve pieces. So go ahead and grab one of your sleeves and you're going to fold it with right sides facing, and you're going to pin first starting at the bottom where your wrist will be, and then you're going to pin the other side, which is up where your armpit will be. So go ahead and just pin at the bottom, pin at the top, and then you want to evenly pin all the way throughout your sleeve piece. Go ahead and repeat that to your remaining sleeve as well. Take your fabric to your sewing machine and we're going to sew on all of our pinned edges with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Again, making sure you're using a stretch stitch on your sewing machine. You can use that lightning bolt stitch, or you can also use a zigzag stitch. Make sure you're using a narrow zigzag so your seams won't pull. So maybe about a 1.5 by a 2.5 should work for your seams, but go ahead and just test it on your particular fabric. Once you've sewn all of your seams, you just want to gently press that at your ironing table. So anytime you sew a seam, it's good practice to press that seam at your ironing table as well. This is going to make sure that your end product looks really neat and professional. So go ahead and just neaten up all of those seams and gently press them at your ironing table. We're going to work on attaching our sleeve to our bodice piece. So with the wrong side of your bodice piece facing out, we're going to slip our sleeve into the armhole with the right side of the sleeve facing out. You want to pin the underarm seam of the sleeve to the side seam of your bodice. Go ahead and just make sure that you're working on the right sleeve piece, and you'll know this by matching up the sleeve notches. So there's one notch that indicates the front, and then there's a double notch that usually indicates the back. You're going to match the notches of the sleeve to the notches of the bodice piece as well. Repeat that step to your other sleeve and your other armhole as well. Again, making sure you're just matching the seam of the sleeve to the seam of the bodice, and also matching those notches. Fabric to your sewing machine, and I'm going to first remove that compartment on my sewing machine so that I can slip my armhole in place. Once you do that, go ahead and just sew along, making sure to remove your pins as you go. And again, you're working with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and you're using a stretch stitch. Go ahead and sew your sleeve hem in place. You want to fold your hem allowance into the wrong side by 5/8 of an inch, and then you're going to sew working from the inside of the sleeve instead of working from the outside of the sleeve. This is just a little bit of an easier process whenever you're working on a really narrow wrist piece. Once you finish attaching your sleeve to your bodice and sewing that sleeve hem, you are all done with Mccall'S 8025. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for following along. Make sure you tag me on Instagram at Rosy Pena and use the hashtag sewingwithrosy so that I can see your beautiful recreation. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys. Alright you guys, you are all done with Mccall'S 8025. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and sewing along with me. Make sure you tag me on Instagram at Rosy Pena and use the hashtag sewingwithrosy so I can see your beautiful recreation. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!